Hello everyone. Welcome back to the series of the Starting with Tech Lead at Silicon Valley. Today I'm going to start the first series and in this first presentation of the first series, I will talk about the overview and the course organization of the database system concept. Um, In this course, I will talk about 8 different parts. First, I will introduce you the concept of the database system. And the second, I will talk about the relational database and how to design a database schemas. And then I will talk about the internal knowledge of the database, how the database store your tables, and how the database can actually query the data in your tables. And also the most important concept, the transaction in the database, and we will cover the different kinds of the database system architectures and some concepts and techniques of the data warehousing, data mining, and the information retrieval techniques. And after that, I will cover some advanced topics. In the introduction part, I will first use an example to show you the history of the concept of the database system. And also I will show you the common features that the database provides for the users. And because the database is actually implemented in the operating system, I will show you the interfacing between the database and the operating system. In the second part, I will talk about the relational database. I will show you the concept of the relational model of the data. This will cover the basic concepts such as the structure of the relational database and the database schemas such as the star schema and the snowflake schema. And also I will talk about the keys in the database schema, such as the primary key and the foreign key and the constraints, the data integrity constraint in the database. After that, I will focus the most influential query language, sequential query language, SQL, in this part. In the third part, I will talk about the design of the database, how we actually design the schema of the database. I will first show you the concept of the entity relationship data model and also the theory behind the relational database design, such as the normalization and why we need to normalize our record, our table. The third point, I will talk about the design of the database application. I will use the web-based interface as an example to show you the system architecture of the database application design. Then in the fourth part, I will cover the internal knowledge of the database, the data storage and the querying. How we actually store our tables in the files in the hard disk by the database system. And if we would like to retrieve some record from our tables, how the database actually access our record in the files. Here we will talk about the B+tree indexes and the hash indexes implemented by database system. And imagine that a user submit a SQL to the database, and the steps that the database will actually take to return the result will be as follows. First, the database will evaluate and translate the query into an execution plan. And during this process, the database will also find the optimized execution plan, and it actually executes the plan and then return the results to the user. In the fifth part, we will talk about the most important concept in the database, the transaction. We will cover the ACID properties of transaction, atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. And also we will talk about the concurrency control protocols such as the knock-in-based protocols, snapshot protocols that the database implements to guarantee the consistency and the isolation of the transaction. And also we will cover the recovery methods such as the write-ahead log that the database system implemented to guarantee the atomicity and the durability of transactions. Then next, we will describe some different kinds of database systems. We will cover the overview of the different kinds of database system architectures, such as the centralized database system, the client-server database system, parallel database system, and the distributed database system. And in the context of the distributed database system, we will also revisit the concept and the issues in the database design, the transaction management, and the query evaluation, and also optimization, because the distributed system will bring us some complexities besides that in the centralized or client-server database. Next, we will talk about some concepts and techniques that we used in the data warehousing, data mining, and the information retrieval, such as the PageRank used by Google. In this part, we actually come to the big data techniques. In the next part, I will cover some advanced topics, and the most important topic that I would like to cover is the performance tuning. In this part, I will actually show how we can identify the bottleneck of our application. If the bottleneck is in the hardware level or the software level. And then after we identifying the bottleneck, how can we actually improve the performance of our application? That's all of the overview and the course organizations. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again in the next presentations. Bye.